Welcome to your new Tax and Compliance Hub. This is FintEdu's Let's Talk podcast, your go-to platform for insightful discussions on tax, compliance, and the evolving regulatory landscape. AML today looks very different from what it was 20 years ago, from manual reviews and rule-based systems to AI-driven screening tools. But here's the real question. Have we actually become better at detecting risk or just more efficient at processing it? Today, we're exploring how compliance has evolved through technology and where it still falls short. We're going to be joined by a wonderful expert, so stay tuned. I'm joined by Mr. Chinmaya Meher. He is a partner at ThinkBox Consultants and he has more than 25 years of experience in banking industry in various different regions as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Chinmaya, for joining us today. Chinmaya, I want to take you back to roughly 20-25 years back when you started your journey in this field. Firstly, how did you get into this field and what was the ground reality for AML at that point in time?
First of all, thank you, Delwyn, for inviting me. It's a pleasure talking to you. Let me first tell you how my career is shaped up, and then I'll link it to AML sanctions. In fact, my professional career has been very diverse, and maybe that's the reason why I look at risk and compliance the way I look at it today. So I started working with a company with the NBFC in the credit risk function, and from there I moved into core functions in banking like operations, branch operations, collections, audit, compliance, operational risk, financial crime, and things like that. And I was able to see how different functions are managing risk. And I was also fortunate to have worked with great brands like Citi, ICICI, GE, and last was Standard Chartered. And those companies really gave me the way they look at it, risk and compliance, and the way they manage the culture around risk. And all this eventually led to creation of or setting up of ThinkBox Consultant in 2024. We thought we can have the deep dive experience, expertise, and the network that we have in the industry to create something to solve clients' problem.
Perfect. So, Chinmaya, I want to understand what or who would have been the biggest influence in your career at that point in time.
So there are many actually, both in the industry and within the organization. Let me start by the ones which are more industry specific. I used to follow Jack Welch, who was the longest serving CEO in GE. And what I learned by reading him is, how to make complex problem into simple thing, how to build teams, how to lead teams, how to innovate things. Then there was, I still follow the next gentleman as, Nandan Nilekani. He is the CTO cum digital architect of the largest, tech platforms for India. And what I learned from him is basically how he thinks about scale, right? Solving problem at scale, creating solutions for billion people and things like that. And then there were others like V. Vaidyanathan. I had a small stint also in his team, not directly reporting to him, but in his team. Right. How to build organizations from scratch. So professional who have come to entrepreneurship and now is the founder CEO of IDFC Bank, IDFC First Bank. Right. But yeah, within the organization also, my managers, people leaders had a great influence on me, and they were the ones who took bet on me. Right. And sometimes when I myself was not sure of my capability, my manager will walk up to me and say, hey, you can do it, just go ahead and do it. Okay. So always my gratitude to my line managers and people leaders who gave me that opportunity to be in this field.
Perfect.
So all in all, it's a combination of internal and external influence that shaped up my career.
Very interesting. And I feel like a lot of the younger people out there who are just now thinking about getting into the field will also come across a similar situation where they themselves might not feel like, okay, I'm ready for the next step, but it will be someone giving them the confidence that, hey, you can do it. We can see something in you. Speaking of this, sir, there are two questions I want to ask you simultaneously because they tie into each other. One is, back then when you were just getting into the function, what was it like? Did you have systems? Did you have technology? And at the same time, did you trust the process or did you start to trust your gut instinct more?
Very interesting question. So 25 years, more than 25 years in fact, when we started, uh, forget about systems and technology, there were not even computers.
Okay.
So I've come from that age where everything was manual. People were working on manual ledger. They were literally writing books of accounts on piece of paper.
Okay.
So obviously there was no systems and data to rely on. So one had no choice but to take his own decisions.
Correct.
But let me put it this way: the decisions were a combination of understanding the client, contextualizing the issue or the risk, and past experiences, right? So, and a combination of all of that, and we used to take decisions. And to be honest, sometimes, many a times, we have learned the hard way as well. We burned our fingers, and then learned that it's a risk. So it's a combination of all of it.
Right. Interesting. And I like the term that you use, you burned your fingers, because a lot of people these days are very risk averse. They don't want to make that mistake. And I want to now start moving into that domain, getting into the present. At some point, you would have started moving from the manual ledgers, the writing, into technology, into systems. When these systems were adopted for the first time, did you feel like they solved a lot of problems or they created different types of problems?
Let me give you a little background to the risk discovery to answer this question. So when I started my career, we only knew about credit risk, right? And finance companies, banks, they used to deal with credit risk. Still, they encountered big events of loss.
Right.
And they learned something called operational risk.
Okay.
So then people started working on operational risk and how to deal with operational risk. And then they learned that there are some more losses which has happened. And they discovered financial crime risk, they discovered conduct risk, they discovered many risk coming up to the latest ones like environmental and social and AI related risk.
Yes.
So every time there was a risk which was identified, the way it starts, people start dealing with it, tactically, from Excel spreadsheet to some tactical tools. Eventually, there will be a proper systems, and those tactical solutions will die a natural death, and the solution will take over. Best example is credit.
Okay.
For more than a decade, we were running on Excel sheet, phone calls, offline checking, and things like that. One fine day, credit bureau came, and the whole industry changed. All those tactical system died. So now you ping the bureau, get a response. 95% of credit decision today in banks and finance companies bureau based.
Correct.
They only do 5% effort. So that's how it changed. Coming to our space, compliance. Yes, in compliance also, initially compliance was more like following a set of rules or guidelines given by central bank or the authority.
Correct.
And then creating a bit few, I would say, rule based detection scenario to monitor.
Yes.
Right. People started doing manually to Excel sheet, and that's how it worked. But things have really changed today. Now everybody is into technology, whether it is the client or product or services or regulator or fraudsters or money launderers, everybody is using technology. So you can't shy away from technology. You have to use technology, and you have to figure out how to balance technology and your own judgment.
Interesting. And when you say this, you obviously mentioned the different types of risk and how we've boiled down to what our core topic is. I wanted to understand, looking back, how different is your day-to-day work today with the help of all of these different tools that you are accessing? So, let's say you are dealing with a client now. What kind of services do you provide, and how are you able to provide those services? Do you rely on some other tools as well?
Personally, I use a couple of tools,
Okay.
to make my day efficient and make my process efficient. But we'll talk about compliance today, right?
Yes.
So, yes, initially there are no compliance tools, but now compliance or AML tools are available to everyone. So a lot of people are using these tools, and one Intel Wings, we all have seen it, we all have used it. A lot of people are using it as well. So what is happening is that people are blindly putting data and information and loading into the platform.
Correct.
And let the platform do its job and gives a result. And then they start looking at it, which is in a way right also. That saves a lot of effort, estimations, and cost and time, resource, everything.
Correct.
The difference is that who is designing these rules?
True. Yes.
In big organization or large corporates or like banks, the people who are managing financial crime risk, compliance risk, they design the rules. And those set of people are most of the time are risk averse.
Yes.
They have an interest to protect their job. They have to interest to protect their community. So sometimes they go all out and give a lot of detection scenarios which are excessive.
Okay.
Right, because they
Right.
don't want to take risk.
Yes.
So they will put scenarios and monitoring scenarios on everything possible,
Okay.
which is leading to a lot of output, which may not be risk relevant.
Correct.
You have a lot of alerts to deal with. I mean, you put a name in a system, do a screening, you'll get some maybe 100 hits. That's a lot of work.
True.
Yeah, so that's the change. And I think when we speak about the intelligent part of the systems, which will address some of it.
Sure thing. I think I have a few more questions, but we'll definitely come back to those. Right now, I want to kind of ask you about a case. So, we have seen how systems were earlier, or the way the processes worked. We've seen that rule-based systems were then employed. I want to understand in the current day, if you are dealing with a client or if you are assisting a client handle their compliances, if their screening system throws an alert, what happens next, or what is the best way to deal with that?
Okay. It's a workflow. Anybody who's using a system to get an alert, they are using a workflow most likely.
Yes.
Where the moment there is an alert, the alert will be looked at by an analyst or person who is dealing with that case, and he will try to understand whether this listed individual is the same as the client.
Correct.
And for that, very simply, you'll have to look at some identification document, some data, nationality. Is my client 25 year age and the listed individual is 60 years age, so I can discount saying that no, he's not the person.
Correct.
It's a process. One has to go through that process, which is very, very manual.
Correct.
Right. So once you actually find a hit, which is a true hit, we call it true hit, when the listed individual and the client is same, we call it true hit.
Okay.
Then there is a set of actions which is required from a regulator's perspective. Then you may have to raise an internal SAR, you may have to raise a SAR externally in GoAML side.
Right.
You have to do enhanced due diligence to see where are the risks, and it can go anywhere. from regulatory reporting to freezing assets depending on what kind of hit. If it is a sanction hit, then the repercussions are different. If it is a AML or a PEP hit, the repercussions are different. So the actions really depends on what happens. But I just want to correlate this with another example, how the systems are creating problems also. And this is a banking example I'll give. We had a customer who was a international client who used to operate and travel multiple countries and geographies, and he used to use his credit cards. So, and he had multiple credit cards.
Okay.
So we got a hit in one of his card, which was swiped in Europe, and there were some issues. So we blocked it and informed the client saying that it has been blocked. This is this, and he said no, this was me only, and this is my card. There is no issue here.
Okay.
We saw a potential AML risk there.
Okay.
And he confirmed that it's me, not a problem. You can go ahead. 1 week later, we got another card of the same client hit in some other country, and we again blocked it with the potential AML risk. Client was very furious. He was obviously international client, wealthy client, well-read, knowledgeable client.
Correct.
He called and took everybody's happiness. We had to solve that case whatever we had to do, but the problem I'm trying to highlight is while we are using systems, even big corporates don't have systems which are efficient. So that system was not looking the client like a client with multiple products. It was monitoring at an account level, card level.
Okay.
So one card, there is a monitoring alert, will take action. Same issue in another card will take another action.
Highlighted separately.
Simple problem like this.
Correct.
So there are systems, but there are some problem also because compounding because of the inefficiencies.
True. I think the example you've given leads me in to ask another question, and that is systems today. There's a dime a dozen. There's so many different systems, all evolving, all showing different sets of features, having different things that they're developing on. How do you get to a conclusion that, okay, this system is good, it meets my requirements? Do you have a mental checklist, or is there something that you look for in a system?
Very good questions. Few basic checks before finalizing a system. And it doesn't really matter whether you are taking a core banking system or a AML systems or a transaction monitoring systems or a trade systems.
Okay.
Those need to be there. And that's a standard set of questions or checklist one has to go through. What happens that gives you the confidence that it's a reliable system to start with? The functionalities, the technology, the platform, all those basic things. How flexible is the technology, etc. For example, I'll give an example which will help you understand. Like we built a system and the capacity was built to handle 1,000 alerts. All of a sudden there was a change in scenario and we had to push 10,000 alerts. System that crashed. So those are basics. It's not AML.
Correct.
That's one. Now we also need to look at the compliance, sanctions, AML perspective also. For example, for name screening, we will look at which are the data sets it is linked or consuming.
Right.
Are these the required in the market that we are operating?
Correct.
For example, all the global listing, every platform consumes. But in UAE, there is a UAE terrorist list which is very specific to UAE.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of platforms not having this list. This list may be a subset of the global list.
Correct.
I'm not denying that. But the requirement is very specific. One has to cover this UAE terrorist list.
Yes.
If not, there can be some issue. So we have to look at the data set it is consuming, the sufficiency, scope and reliability of the data. And then the most important thing is flexibility.
Correct.
The environment is evolving very fast.
True.
Whenever there is a change, how flexible is the system to accommodate the change?
Correct.
And I'll give an example also, or maybe a couple of examples which are relevant to today's world and which will help you understand. Let's say the US Israel Iran war going on, right? And it's very hot topic for all of us in Dubai and everywhere.
Correct.
And you would have heard about in news, US gave India 1 month exemption from processing Russian oil.
Yes.
So that's a very simple political statement made, given by the authority. So now how do you implement that in your systems? So our systems are designed in a way, checking the client, vessel tracking, trade tracking, port tracking, tanker tracking. There are a lot of things which are there, which goes into tracking or investigating or alerting systems, and the window is only 30 days.
Yes.
Initially. So how does one incorporate those changes into the system and still able to manage the risk?
Correct.
And if you have done the change, how fast will you able to reverse the change once the sanctions exemptions are lifted?
Correct.
I can bet majority of the big banks don't have the flexibility to implement such a change. I can bet my life on that.
Okay.
Right. So it's very important to have the flexibility in the system. Second, the system should be coping up to the latest circumstance, latest what's happening in the market. Let's say now in Dubai, virtual assets are promoted really for everyone.
Correct.
We have seen why vast real estates?
Yes.
People are using virtual assets to pay for their real estate purchase or sale.
Correct.
Right. So when you are dealing with a virtual asset kind of a transaction, how do you do the risk assessment of the client? Because all our systems are client specific.
Yes.
They monitor a profile, an individual, an entity, legal entity or a natural person, whatever. In this scenario, over and above the natural person, you also have to monitor the technology part.
Correct.
We call it not KYC, we call it KYT. Okay. Know your token, know your wallet. There is a separate process to do a KYC on the wallet and the token to see that there are no risks coming with those tokens. While it is all technology and it's very difficult to understand this technology, there is a way to really do a KYC or KYT on a tech also, or the tech related transactions. So is the system flexible enough? If I want to add a product, will it be able to help me with the change in the product? Otherwise, what will happen for client KYC? Let's say I'm using A systems, which is not compatible or it can't enhance me to handle virtual asset transaction. I have to go for another B system to do a separate KYT and then take out a report and manually read. So which is defeating my purpose, right? Then third example, these are very contextual, that's why I thought I must share, is cross-border.
Okay.
When we started our career, there was nothing called cross-border. 100% of our clients were domestic and using domestic product. There was no remittance and things like that.
Okay.
But talk about Dubai.
Yeah, it is.
90% of the people are expats.
Yes.
So 100% of the client will have some cross-border transactions.
Definitely.
Even if they are the lowest of the risk. And then they will have a set of people who are floating population. They are transacting. They are staying in some other countries, coming to Dubai, buying a property. They are like a floating population.
Correct.
One is the people. Second, UAE is like a trade hub, which sits between Asia and Africa. A lot of trade happens through UAE, and all those trade brings an element of cross-border. Then the people who are coming from this trade, they may be residing somewhere else. They are completely, so there is a geographical risk which comes. There is a sanctions risk which comes. So there are a lot of risk when you are dealing in a cross-border. Cross-border requirements for every country is different. So the compliance officer need to understand the cross-border requirement of the country of residence and the country of trade.
Yes.
So when the environment is changing so fast, how flexible is the system to accommodate my additional requirement?
Correct. So I have one, I would say a Boolean kind of question, yes or no. How well equipped, because you mentioned real estate, how well equipped are real estate firms in the UAE currently to deal with something like KYT, know your token, or KYW, know your wallet? How well equipped are their systems?
Very poorly equipped.
Okay. All right. I think that's the answer I was looking for, because a lot of people start to believe that AML is only this much. But when you start to look at it more holistically, like you said, there are these different sets of risks that start getting involved, and all of these risks have different sets of measures or
Yeah.
controls that need to be taken into account. So you mentioned something very peculiar, right? Systems need to be flexible enough to be able to handle what is happening. And I think one of the more recent boons that a lot of us have seen is AI, artificial intelligence. I wanted to understand, firstly, in what terms or in what way is AI seen in these systems nowadays? And secondly, do you think, again, with the question I asked earlier, is AI solving a problem, or is it giving you different problems to think about?
That's a very tricky question. So let me give an corollary before we answer the question. Is like, if I give a Ferrari to an immature driver, what will happen?
Most likely, there will be a huge bill on the cards because they might end up crashing or hurting
So
themselves.
can we blame the Ferrari or we can blame the immature driver?
I would say the driver.
We don't know. So it's like that. So AI in today's world, is quite different. Historically, people have used AI to automate workflow, automate decision making.
Right.
Those were the use cases normally, which started a couple of years back, which is also not very, I would say, efficient in today's environment, but that's the use. But what AI can do is a lot of things that AI can do. So what people are using today is like enhance the content of my contract, letter. In a AML system, most reasonable use case is how to fine tune the detection scenarios.
Okay.
Right, which is the very common use case.
Right.
There are some softwares which are used for addressing the false alerts, because
Okay.
we are in an industry where false alerts are 90% onwards. So if you get 1000 alerts, AML alerts, 900 are definitely false alerts.
Okay.
You only need to look at the 100.
Correct.
So I've been part of some projects and also in banks where people have started using AI for this dealing with this false alert. So can we run a AI which can reduce my false alert, let's say, by 50% or 40%? So these are, I would say, tactical use of AI. We believe that this is where the system can be made efficient, and we put AI there.
Correct.
But we are not using AI for rebuilding the whole compliance. Recently, last week only, I was having a discussion with one AI system provider from Singapore. What they have developed is basically you can put your regulation, it reads the regulation, it interprets, and it makes you a case for you to do your self-assessment.
Okay.
So imagine you get a AML regulation of 150 page from your authority, and the industry that we are dealing with, let's say real estate or corporate service providers, there are not so many experts, right? Who can read such a big regulation and understand and interpret and do an evaluation of each point. So what this system can do for you, it will help you to interpret the regulation, make checklist, and make you an assessment.
Ah,
So there are new used cases which are coming.
okay.
Then another use case which I have looked at, which is talking about perpetual KYC.
Okay.
So what KYC we are doing today is based on historical data. Because sometimes it's like a post-mortem, right, of what has already happened.
Yes.
So this new KYC, this AI enabled KYC, perpetual KYC, while it will allow you to do a KYC at that point in time, onboarding or periodically, on the back end it will keep running on a perpetual basis.
Okay.
Any behavioral changes with respect to your transaction, your profile, your social media behavior, or any alert anywhere, it will automatically link it to your profile and will create a case.
Oh,
Right. So, and to do all this manually is huge effort. It's not worth the effort, right?
correct.
I mean, I might get one case in 1,000, so I don't want to spend 10 people doing that, right?
Yes.
If I can get a system which does it for me with a negligible cost or negligible effort, I would prefer. So AIs are coming in those spaces. In fact, let me put it this way: people are using AI to redesign the compliance process itself.
Okay. So with the parts that you said, I'm sure there will be a lot of benefits, most certainly. Do you also foresee any sort of challenges that may come up with the implementation of AI?
Yes, there will be some, because there is no human judgment in AI, right? So
Right.
AI is efficient, automated system. What it is being told, it will do very efficiently. But if the instructions are not relevant or unethical or incorrect, even the outputs will lead to incorrect output, right? So there are the challenges. So the example we were referring to, Ferrari. So
Correct.
if you crash a smaller car with a slower moving speed, the impact is low. But if you crash a fast moving car with very high movement speed, the impact will be large, right? So that will happen in AI as well, because it is so efficient and moving so fast.
Right.
Any small mistakes, the impact could be higher.
I think that makes sense, and you make a very interesting point. Uh, the way I see it is, obviously everything has a pro to it. There are things which work really well, but there's also cons that a lot of people just choose to ignore, especially in a field like AML, where it kind of tends to become a duty that you have to fulfill. Uh, I know that a lot of people see it as something that has to be done rather than seeing it in a more proactive way. And that is a whole separate challenge to deal with on its own. But I have a couple of questions in relation to what you've said. First, I wanted to kind of understand when it comes to AI, and you also mentioned earlier that there's a lot of false positive alerts, right? Maybe 10% would be actual positives. Is there something that stops AI or people developing these softwares from reducing these number of false alerts, especially now that we're in, I would say, the golden age where all of these different possibilities are opening themselves? So is there something that stops AI from reducing the number of false positives?
Not really. And people have started working on it.
Okay.
But it depends on the motive of the people and the industry who is doing it. So, for example, when a business manager is reviewing AML compliance process, and when he see 90% false positive,
Right.
in his mind he's thinking, my process has 90% wastage,
Yes.
and he will immediately give some direction to fix it.
Correct.
But when a chief compliance officer looking at it, he's saying, my process is efficient because I'm doing a search on 100.
Correct.
The outcome is one, because that's the industry, that's how it works. It's like we call in AML and sanction, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? So you can't have one check and one output. You have to go through thousands and thousands of check to get an output. So, but how does one brings a balance? If people are genuinely interested and use the right systems, yes, the alerts can be brought down. If the AI is able to auto close the false positive,
Right.
might as well, if you put it in the alerting system little ahead in the workflow, it can reduce creating those alerts also.
Correct.
But who's it going to help,
Right.
and who's building it? The software company, their vendor may not do it, because their industry runs on volume.
Correct.
Right? Compliance folks, compliance fraternity, they may not want to take the risk,
Correct.
because compliance is not about just managing risk. There is sometimes personal accountability.
Yes.
The MLRO, chief compliance officer in a finance company, may have personal accountability. So his risk taking ability is limited.
Correct.
If you go to a business guy, he will say, change everything. Just I want to look at the 10 which is relevant.
Yes.
Don't bring the rest to me. That's why yes, it can be built, but as long as all the parties come together and they think in the interest of the client, interest of the organization, and interest of the compliance risk fraternity. Because see, there's no fun in dealing with wastage for any one of us.
Most
Right?
certainly.
So if we can make things better, then we can do better things in our life.
Correct. And again, I want to recall something you said earlier. You said that there are different layers or different hierarchies in most systems, right? Whether it's the chief compliance officer or whether it's the analyst, they all have their own risk appetite. And generally, what you have seen is they are tending to be more risk averse. Because for them, missing one alert or making one wrong decision has a long, big sort of repercussion. Would you say that the way that systems are being built right now, if they are to get further enhanced by what we've just discussed, would there be a possibility that people stop using the judgment that has been built over these years and then just start to rely on their systems more than themselves?
Good question. I haven't thought about it like that, but yes, when you are not doing things on your own, you tend to reduce your skill around that process.
Right.
That can happen, but compliance is such a subject where you cannot take away the complete human angle to it.
Correct.
Human judgment. uh, I mean, I have a philosophy, that's how I run. I always tell people, give 3 golden words. I always give 3 golden words to people.
Okay.
Be curious, investigate, and escalate.
Okay.
Be curious, investigate, escalate. So when you are curious, you are looking around what's happening, you are noticing what's happening, if there is an exception, and you take note of that and build into your process or risk or decision making.
Correct.
Then when you are investigating, you are actually validating facts pertaining to that risk or incident or case, right?
Yes.
And when you are escalating, you are trying to manage the risk before it becomes an issue. So you are bringing it to the attention of the MLRO, the compliance officer, or AML tech person, or CEO or business head, saying, look, there is an issue, we can deal with that. So some part of the whole process, while systems can be used for generating alerts, gathering data, or giving you interpretation, but judgmental call will always remain in a compliance process, and we will always require people to do that. But if people only take judgment without dealing with the rest of the process, some point in time their skill set around the rest of the process will slow down.
Right. I feel like what you said, if I were to just condense it, you don't use it, you lose it. So from that point of view, the judgment, again, like you've said, you've spent so much time in the field where even though systems work, you still have to rely on your gut, because sometimes the system cannot get context. Like you said about the different credit cards, right? It cannot grasp that context, but you can, because you know the customer, you know the situation. I feel like if people are not able to translate their experience or their intuition into compliance, we will eventually reach a point where that system or that framework will be severely handicapped because we are relying only on facts, figures without the context. So I 100%
Absolutely,
agree with you.
absolutely. In fact, there's a saying, AI can tell you what happened. It will not be able to tell you why it happened.
Okay, do you
Right.
mind exploring on that topic?
Yeah, so what happened is basically data.
Yes.
It will tell you the incident, what went wrong, who was the hit, who was the person, what is the risk, everything what happened.
Right.
Why it happened is a bit of judgment, data based judgment.
Okay.
So AI and tools will give you that data and the information, but the person has to read and understand and take a judgment in the context, in the right context.
That makes sense. And yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. That similar to what you said earlier, it can do the postmortem with the data that yes, this happened. This is probably what went into it. But it can't contextualize that, okay, this is probably the scenario that the team has faced, and this is probably why that has happened. So,
So,
yes, please.
I mean, maybe another one just bit. This is futuristic. We'll not deep dive there. So there are AI tools which are self-learning,
Okay.
right? So those tools will learn the situation and improve upon that. But those are not really in use today. So what we have is mostly generative AI. So it can generate,
Okay.
right? But the self-learning models are not in use because those are very costly, and training those models requires millions and millions of data.
Interesting. So I have just one very quick pointed question. Since we spoke about the systems being developed, they are getting smarter, they're getting better. How do we ensure that people who are in the compliance field are still sharpening the judgment calls that they make? How can they exercise that part of their professional skill set?
That's a very important question for all of us in the room and in the compliance fraternity. So we have no choice but to adopt the systems and keep learning. As the systems and environment are getting smarter and tech oriented, we have to keep learning what techs are coming, what products are coming in the market, and how these tech and products are impacting our AML compliance processes. So one has to learn, do certification. uh, you know very simple certification is like, how many of us use chat gpt or copilot?
Right.
Almost everyone,
Almost
right?
everyone.
But there are courses for prompt engineering.
Okay.
So which is basically you go through a 30-minute course which will tell you what input question you need to ask to get the right output.
Okay.
Because the information is infinite in these systems. If you ask random question, it will give a random answer.
Okay.
So this is an example of one need to get trained like that. Any system which is coming our way, you have to train ourselves to understand what is the development,
Right.
and keep ourselves abreast. And we should be the one. uh, I'm talking about compliance fraternity for compliance systems or AML sanction systems. Eventually there will be two sets of people who will uh, either follow AI or will follow what system says, or another set of people who will tell AI how to run it. So unless you keep
Okay.
yourself trained, educated, informed, you will fall into the set where AI will tell you what to do.
Okay.
There are people like us who keep doing some learning certifications to keep ourselves, and we try to be on the side where we give instructions to the tool what should be the output.
Right. I think that's a very, very important point to note, that you should be able to take those calls, to make those decisions of what you want from it, rather than just ingesting what AI gives you or a system gives
Yeah.
you. There is something that a very important figure in my life told me. They said that, Delwyn, there are no wrong answers, there are only wrong questions. So, again, what you said completely fits along with that, because if you ask the wrong kind of questions to AI, you're going to get the wrong kind of answers. Um, so, you've spent, again, a lot of your time in different geographies or handling different geographies, whether that's the Middle East, whether it's South Asia, or whether it's Africa. I want you to give us some context with the UAE and all the different sectors you've dealt. How different is the UAE in terms of technology, in terms of regulatory technology? Is it well versed? Is it on the up? Is it something that still needs a lot of development?
If you would have asked me this question 5 years before, I would have given a different answer.
Okay.
But today, UAE is probably leading in development of reg tech and compliance tech, and I will tell you why. One, the regulators, whether it is central bank or ESCA or FSRA or DFSA, all the regulators are very pro tech. They develop tech, they help people develop tech, and they all have created something like ecosystems, where people can go and build systems and test it.
Okay.
They've given platforms, they have given connections, they have given customers to be tested, and they've given preferential treatment. So because they believe in tech, they are promoting tech.
Right.
That is one. Second, UAE is in the intersection of trade and tech.
Absolutely.
Right. So when people are coming here and their requirements are tech related, the market cannot ignore them. Right. So if someone comes to buy a house and wants to pay in Bitcoin, how many people go to a market and pay for Bitcoin to buy a house? There are, I would say, you can count those countries in your fingers.
Correct.
UAE is one of them. So UAE has no choice but to solve for those things. Third, the people who are involved here are basically expats who are well educated, well trained, and come here with a lot of educated background, and people use tech. So whether you talk about iPhone penetration or smartphone penetration or tech usage, this country is one of the highest in the world. So these are the environment which is supporting, and there were a couple of outside incident which happened, which is also boosted tech here.
Okay, like any instance in your mind?
Yes, there are two instances.
Okay.
COVID 2019, the whole world moved rapidly in digital and virtual work and tech adoption. I mean, everybody learned 5 years of technology in just 3 months. So the world moved ahead 5 years in 3 months.
Correct.
Because suddenly everything was freezed and people needed to use tech to connect and do work. That was one incident. Generally, people have moved ahead 5 years in tech adoption. Second, the regulatory push which has come after the grey listing of UAE.
Right.
I think 2022 UAE was grey listed by FATF, right? So because it's the government and the highest offices here, they saw it as a unacceptable situation to be in. They did really everything possible under their capacity to improve, and we all have seen literally 10 years regulations are pushed in 2 years. So in terms of regulatory implementation, adoption, and improvement, 10 years what would have happened in a normal scenario in any other country has happened in 2 years. So regulatorily we are ahead as a country, and there are some space where UAE is really leading now.
Okay.
For example, DNFBP.
Right.
The AML requirements for DNFBP is hardly there in any country, or it's there in very few countries. Let me put it that way.
Right.
So UAE can tell and teach other markets how to manage AML risk in a DNFBP sector, right? And to the most amazing part, a lot of DNFBP here are using tech to manage their AML sanctions and compliance, right?
Correct.
So because of this, regulatory-led initiative and environmental requirements or surrounding requirements, UAE is in a different place today, and probably it is leading in some of the areas.
Amazing insight, sir. So, just to kind of set the ground rules, DNFBP, designated non-financial businesses and professions, um, you said that they are also adopting technology, and they're now in the frontier where they can let other jurisdictions know this is how we do it. Uh, Very quickly, you mentioned RegTech and compliance tech. Do you mind just elaborating on what those two are? What do they look like for a layman?
So RegTech is basically any technology which can make uh, things efficient, faster, cheaper,
Okay.
relating to regulatory implementation or regulatory requirements. So within the RegTech, you can have couple of subsections,
Okay.
which is like one is the screening side of it, AML sanction screening.
Correct.
Then so that's one RegTech. Then you can have the client due diligence side, that can be another RegTech.
Correct.
Then the regulatory implementation. So what central banks are using AI to monitor banks and financial institutions.
Correct.
That's called supervisory tech, sup tech,
Okay.
subtech. Then there is a department within a bank which only looks at the regulatory affairs and regulatory reporting and regulatory interaction.
Okay.
Putting a tech in that is called regulatory supervisory tech.
Okay.
So yeah, I know it's tech to help improve different aspect of compliance and regulation,
Right.
but yeah,
Very
specific.
interesting. And would you say, so obviously looking apart from AML angle, would you say something like MRR tax, which is the tax portal,
Absolutely.
is that also going to be considered as RegTech?
Yes, RegTech is not really AML sanctions or central bank. Any regulation,
Anything regulatory.
any regulatory authority, it could be your insurance authority as well.
Okay.
If they are giving a tech, it's a, you can call it a subset of RegTech, which is InsurTech,
Okay.
because it deals specifically with insurance.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's all
It's still RegTech.
RegTech.
Okay. And just with that context, I think just in a few days ago, there was a notice or a news release about central bank adopting an eKYC module. Would you be able to share some insight on that? What's your view on it? Do you think that's a good step forward? Do you think there's something still that needs to be done on that part?
Yes, in fact, we have done a lot of work in that space. We were building a CDD bureau, which hasn't moved enough the way we expected. We have put a temporary halt on that. But yes, central bank has been talking about it for many years, to have a centralized eKYC platform.
Okay.
Today, all of us are banking multi-bank, right?
Yes.
I don't have just account in one bank. You will not have in one bank. You have in multiple banks. You have multiple credit cards. You do DNA BP transactions, like you go buy gold, you go buy a house, right?
True.
So
Yes.
there are so many things, and everywhere you go, you have to do your KYC.
Correct.
Either you know it and you are part of it, or giving the documents, or somebody is doing it without you knowing it, but there is some bit of KYC happening, because these are all industries that comes under AML regulations. So think about the amount of duplication, because every entity is doing it their own way, and the impact the client is having.
Right.
So what the central bank is trying to do, if they can build a centralized utility, if everybody can use that, at least start with banking. So you do, like in India, there is something called CKYC. So
Okay.
Central KYC Registry. It's a Reserve Bank of India promoted entity,
Okay.
which is a common platform for all bank, finance, and mutual fund and investment companies to do KYC. Your KYC is once done there, you get a KYCR number.
Okay.
You go to another bank, give you a number and you can open your account. No KYC required.
Okay.
Because every bank and AMC is connected to CKYCR. So that's another topic we can discuss, but they are being used like a more regulatory promoted and not really economically beneficial model.
Okay.
That's my understanding. So, but yeah, if you can build something like this in this market, which is digital savvy, customers are all connected, we can bring a lot of efficiency, and that's what the central bank is doing.
Interesting. Now that we've seen, systems can adopt, they have the scope to adopt, we have seen people implementing it as well. I would like to understand, what is your point of view of it? So, where do you think our systems, our entire workflow as a compliance professional, where do you see it going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Where do I see it going, or where do I would like it to go?
You can give two different answers.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely, I mean, it's a natural progression. So when you start dealing with a new risk and new set of systems and process comes, over a period of time, it will mature, it will become efficient. People will find inefficiency and they'll improve upon that. But at times we need to take a balcony view of things. Only when you sit in a balcony you can see the whole stage.
Correct.
And all the actors, how it is playing, and take a decisions. If you are part of the stage itself and playing as an actor, your view is very limited. So I think AI and RegTech will completely change the way we are doing our compliance process. When it was manual, we had one round of improvement. There was one unit which I was managing, and when we implemented AML, CDD, KYC, we created a big unit of some 300 people.
Okay.
Under my umbrella. As and when we adopted systems to automate and digitize, not AI, just to digitize, create platforms and bit of automation, those 300 would have come down to maybe 50, 60 now.
Okay.
Still there is no AI. Some bit of AI here and there, or RPA, robotic process automation, etc.
Yes.
When this whole process becomes AI driven, that 50, 60 might just come down to 10.
Right.
Because things you don't need to do, systems will do it for you.
Correct.
So yeah, people will look for these opportunities and they will be taking this call to adopt full AI systems.
Interesting.
But there is a challenge there, which people have already started facing. It's very difficult today to explain to a regulator the AI based decisions.
Okay.
People have put AI systems, AI is taking call, but when you report to your regulator, or regulator does a investigation or review of your systems, very difficult to explain.
Okay.
How the AI has taken a call. In earlier days, we had to give CRA or KYC document and say this is how risk rating was done. So simple, right?
Correct.
Regulator understands. Okay, you took 10 parameters, you risk rated, you said high risk, low, medium, customer, whatever.
Correct.
But the black hole within AI, which is doing a risk rating of client, could be hundreds and millions of things we don't know.
Yes.
It's very difficult to explain to a regulator. I'm hoping those things will get sorted.
Interesting. And since you mentioned that, I think one of the things a lot of people face right now, or even in the most simplistic AI scenarios, is the inability to explain what is actually happening. Because at the end of the day, it's still a person, a compliance officer that is representing the company. How do you take that call is generally the question, and they often don't know the answer because AI is the answer to it. So, do you think some point in the future, the entire workflow or the entire process of AML compliance, can it be fully automated, or will it always have to be hybrid?
There will be automation for sure, and the automation will be very large to a very large extent. let's look at it this way. Regulator is helping you, promoting industry to adopt systems which can benefit the industry and the client.
Correct.
But the regulator also expects the firms and the compliance people to understand and to be able to explain what is the system and how it is taking a decision.
Correct.
Right? So if the compliance officer, historically the compliance officers were like, to put it simply, they're like lawyers, reading regulation, interpreting regulation, doing checklist and things like that.
Okay.
Some of them definitely had definitely other learnings and other important understanding as well. Now the requirement is to learn tech. You need to be a compliance officer and also a compliance tech person to be able to understand the systems and this AI which is getting used. Then only you'll be able to explain. Or when you are signing off an AI model for a compliance implementation, if you don't understand, how will you sign it off, right?
True.
So it's very important for all of us to learn, understand, be part of the game, and then I hope things will be easier.
Interesting. I think you've touched on this a little bit, but in the next 5 to 10 years that you spoke about, where you see it going, what would be the role of an AML analyst at that point in time? Is it going to be different as compared to what it is right now? Will it be more enhanced, more tech driven, or is it just slightly adapting what they already know?
No, it's going to change drastically because the large part of analyst role will get automated. Probably the decision making or judgmental call will only left with analyst.
Okay.
Not the BAU. So let's take the example of the alert which we spoke in the beginning.
True.
So the moment the alert comes, what does the analyst do? He will go to multiple systems to check. He'll go to core banking system, see client profile, his age, address, nationality, geography, residence, things like that.
Correct.
Then he'll go to another system to look at what transactions he has done. So I would say gathering data to analyze an alert is like 50% of the work.
Okay.
Which is manual today.
Yes.
Analyst is manually going to 3 different systems, checking data and bringing it together to take it decisions. You don't need this. You put a simple tool called RPA, robotic process automation. If you write the codes, it will go to the specific data points and put it for you and create a readable page for the analyst to look at.
Correct.
So things like that will get automated. And the data which is now presented, second part is looking in the context of the alert and taking a decision which will remain.
Interesting. So I have the complete opposite also as a question, right? We're talking about how we're going to build on AI, how it's going to enhance our lives. If tomorrow AI completely disappears, not going to happen, but a hypothetical, AI is completely gone tomorrow, will compliance systems fall apart, or are they strong enough to survive without the assistance of AI?
No, it's not going to fall apart. There will be impact for sure, but people will find a way. Like it's a generic response, I would say, that human race, they find an answer to a problem and they will like we have seen COVID recently.
Correct.
Nobody in this world had an experience of COVID. There were huge disaster, but people literally, they came out of it. We came out of it. When I started working, there was no Google map. I am from Atlas generation. So when I visit a new city or a new place, I will go to the bookstore, buy an Atlas map. And I will take that along with me. First time I went to Chandigarh, first time I went to Colombo, there were no Google Maps. I used to buy booklets which will tell you about the history of that city and a map. So I know basic map and I'll keep walking, looking at the map. Where am I and things like that. So, I mean, we survived, we learned. So the AI goes, we will find out, we'll survive.
Interesting. I really like that approach. And I feel like the framework is strong enough the way it is right now. in a way that even if AI for some reason disappears tomorrow, it's strong enough to continue. Like you said, there would definitely be impact, but we will learn, we will thrive from it. Um, I want to kind of bring our discussion to a crescendo to speak about where we think we're going to be heading towards, and more importantly, what's our outlook for the entire industry. Is there one thing in your mind that the industry has still not understood or figured out about AI and compliance?
I think both are different answer to both AI and compliance.
Okay.
It is not one response to both. Let's start with compliance. Compliance is not a blocker or bottleneck to business. It's an enabler.
Okay.
The way compliance helps, if people understand this right way, it'll be beneficial for them, because if you don't meet compliance, what will happen? You'll have client loss, fines, penalties, which are bigger. Let's say to save 100, you have to spend 30 to manage compliance, so that you are saving 100.
Correct.
So, and also it is not, it is also helping improve your process, client experience, etc. So, this is an enabler, which people have not understood.
Okay.
Many people in the industry, specifically in DNF, BP and other places I have seen, they look at compliance as a checklist and a liability.
Okay.
Oh, this also have to do and have to spend money on this. They have not looked at it like an enabler.
Okay.
Matured organization, big corporate banks, they have understood, and compliance really sits on the desk in the board to make any kind of decision. So that's people need to learn. Second, AI, this is my personal view, is AI is as good as it has been told, right? So who are the people who are building this AI, and for whom? What is the ethics around those AI? So if a money launderer is involved or able to influence AI maker, then he will use it for his benefit. So that is one area which people have not figured out, not understood, not getting into. AI is, they are looking at AI as a off the shelf product.
Yes.
Take it and use it. That's not enough. That's not good. We need to look at the AI governance aspect. How was the AI developed? What was the motive? What was the expectations from the AI? Which all rules, regulations were kept in mind for designing the AI? How was it tested and demonstrated that it is behaving the way it is designed to? So those are the areas. Maybe it's premature, but that's the area people have not understood.
Interesting. I'll just take you back to the first part that you mentioned, where people generally in the designated non-financial sectors, they see AML as an additional task, a liability, and they don't see it as proactivity. What advice or what insight would you give them to change their perspective on AML and compliance?
Yeah, and it's very important for all of us to kind of have our own script whenever there is a question from a business guy, because he's not understood. He maybe he's not come to a scenario where he would have somebody would have explained to him.
Correct.
So we need to have a script, and this script can be as per one's understanding and requirement. But generally, I would see this is only to help you and your client, protect you and your client from any money laundering litigations, penalties, or getting crossed with the regulator. So if you want to drive a car, the way you go around driving in Dubai, you first get a license and drive, right? So you don't start driving without a license. So it's like that. It's for your benefit, to help you prevent misadventure, losses, penalties. You need to do it. You do it from me or do it from you or from somebody else, doesn't matter. You have to do it for your benefit.
Very interesting point of view. I would like to close out this wonderful discussion with one final question. And this very often goes in the opposite direction of what a lot of people tend to ask. A lot of people tend to ask, what would you like to add? How would you like to enhance the current systems? I want to ask you the opposite. What would you remove from today's compliance structure? And that something that you remove would make the entire system better.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I can talk about one. So, not remove, I would like to reduce.
Okay.
Removing may not be the right thing to do for this particular scenario that I'm talking. Compliance today is always looking back.
Okay.
Historical data, historical profile, historical KYC, historical update. This is all post-mortem. So we spend 90% of the energy on looking back. I want to reverse it. Spend 10% of your energy on looking back and 90% of your energy in thinking about future forward. How can this client bring a risk to me in future?
Okay.
How, like the war happened, there is an impact, right? How is this event going to impact me in future in terms of AML process or compliance? So I would like people to reduce the looking back and increase on the looking forward.
I think that would play hand in hand with the thing you said about proactivity. The more they see it as forward looking or beneficial to them, they will also start to realize that, hey, we start looking at things that are going to happen rather than things that have already happened. So I 100% agree with you on that point. Any last closing comments from your side, Mr. Chinmay?
I know compliance is not a glamorous job, right? But it is interesting. And what makes me, like and do this job is the fact that I'm able to help my clients getting into compliance issues. Sometimes help their client of client, with their transactions and things like that, and also protect the financial ecosystem from bad actors, right? And of course, interacting with lovely people like you, and have the own community within compliance. So that's what I like.
It's been an honor speaking with you, sir. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you.
From manual reviews to AI-driven systems, AML has come a very long way, but there's still a long way to go. As we've heard today, the balance between technology and the human judgment is still evolving. Thank you so much, Mr. Chinmay, for joining us. Thank all of you for being a part of this journey. This is FintEdu. Let's talk. See you in the next conversation.